Okay, anatomy lesson number 1, the safety system. So the safety system on these saws is very simple. It consists of the movable blade guard, a bearing that the blade guard pivots on, and a spring. That's all there is to it. So this, as you recall during the teardown, was just totally gummed up and frozen in the housing. I had to pound it out, but it's actually in good shape once I got it kind of cleaned up. And it's just a ball bearing. But it's not sealed, and it has a rough life. So I soaked it, scraped it, cleaned it, blew it out, picked out the little holes with the toothpick and a needle. And how this works is pretty straightforward. So this will screw into the back of the blade guard, and it's a left-hand thread. Again, lefty-tighty. There's only 2 threads, so there's not much to bite there. But that's how it goes. Then the gearbox, here there's this bearing runs in this race. So works like this. And there's a spring that goes into the inside and picks up one of these 6 holes, depending on how it's oriented and how tight this is and the locations and all that. You got 6 holes to choose from where the spring grabs the blade guard, and then the spring just winds radially like so, and that's what raises the blade guard, or closes the blade guard. And the other end of that spring fits into a hole on the inside of the bearing. So you can see this, but there's the hole on the inside of the bearing pocket where that spring catches, and you can see the radial action. So that's your safety system. Spring, bearing, movable blade guard. Okay, the solid metal column of the main shaft. So here's the main shaft. And the solid metal column consists of the main shaft itself, sector gear, this seal here, the seal race here. Well, this is just for the inner seal that I took off so you can see what's going on. The outer bearing, and the blade arbor itself, and then the blade screw and washer on the outside. So these are actually in on the act for creating the solid metal column for the main shaft. So if we take the blade, the righty-loosey blade off, you can see blade arbor, bearing, seal race, gear, shaft, right-hand bearing. And as I press on the shaft, you can see the left-hand bearing springing back out. That's due to the little spring that's inside of the bearing pocket. You saw it when I took it apart. So that just pulls off, and then this bearing is just a slip fit. So that's how you create the solid metal column. Now, when we reassemble, it's hard to find these bearings anymore. As you notice, its inner race is wider than its outer race. So we cheat. I want to put in a permalube bearing, which is this. And then to make up the difference in the thickness of the inner race, I'm going to use 2 spacers, 1mm spacers, fitted for a 17mm shaft from McMaster Carr. And I simply drop those on. And then drop the new bearing over it. I'll do that when I reinstall the main shaft. That's all there is to that. Okay, anatomy lesson number 2. Got 2 shafts. The main shaft that turns the blade, and the worm shaft turned by the motor rotor. So, main shaft, bearing, gear, seal, bearing. And this little spring provides the preload of this shaft in the bearing braces. That is turned by the worm gear. That's where we get the name worm drive. So this is a solid metal column. Goes all the way from here, all the way to here. As you can see, you got the bearing, which the race of which inner race rides directly against the worm gear. The inner race of the worm gear drives against this spacer right here. So there's the seal. And then another bearing on the rotor, the commutators, and the rear bearing. So this is all held together by that 9/16 nut, and which compresses this into a solid metal column. So this stays in one place, and the thrust is controlled by that nut. So that's how she works. And it happily turns the worm gear around and round, and that happily turns the sector gear around and round. There you go. That's worm drive. Okay, this seal right here, there's a separate brace for the seal. So this seal, get it on the right way, goes on there, sits on there. And this bearing, which is the outer bearing towards the blades, the heaviest bearing in the saw, does most of the work, just slips on. It's just a slip fit. So usually I just leave this in place. It only rides inside of this rubber seal, so it has no wear on it. So I just leave it alone. I'm going to pull these bearings off. Okay, the best way to get these bearings off is this gland-style gear puller, bearing puller. It's an auto parts store thing. You can get by without it if you just have a piece of slotted sheet metal and a center punch, but this is the proper way to do it, I guess. And it just pulls the bearing off. There's the bearing. Pretty as you please. Okay, I'm going to set up and do this one. You have to watch me fumbling with this. There, I just set it up off camera. Everything moves on these things, so instead of watching me fumbling around and dropping parts all over the floor, there it is when it's all set up. And again, you just crank it off there. Nice and easy. And there you go. There's your worm shaft. Now typically I don't do anything with this at all. Just wipe the oil off it a little bit. And then I'll look back at the gear to make sure there's no burrs or sharp edges on it. This one's got a couple, but I'll just take a file to it, a jeweler's file, and just very lightly knock the sharp edges off of the teeth. Just practically, it's a little scrubbed right here. You can see that, but it's a little scrubbed. You can see a radius in the tooth from where the worm has been wearing on it. But not too bad. Not too bad at all. Okay, so what, you say? Well, here is the guts of the electrical part of the saw. You got the rotor, the field, the brushes, the switch, the cord, and the brush holder. Very simple system. So how this works is the current comes in from the wall. This is just a cord through the switch. The switch provides current down into the field. And then the hot wire circulates electricity around this coil. Then the coil powers this brush, and then this brush touches the commutator, which circulates the electricity through the windings on the rotor. So it picks up electricity and it winds it around the widest possible path it can on the rotor back to the other side of the commutator. And you can see that by the way it's wound. If you look at these winding wires, they always go all the way across 180 degrees from this slot all the way to this slot, 180 degrees away. So this commutator segment winds around and feeds this commutator segment. So when it's in place, so that creates a coil. A coil creates an electromagnet. So electricity going around in a circle creates a magnet just like this. This is called a permanent magnet. It's magnetic all the time. But when you curl an electric wire around in a circle and run current through it, it creates a magnetic pull just like this. The only difference is this one you can't turn on and off, that one you can. Simply by turning the current off. Turn the current on. Magnetism, no magnetism. So when the current comes through the windings in the motor, which are just big loops of wire, the commutator touches the brush. The brush is conductive. It's made out of carbon. That conducts it to the brush holder, which is actually insulated from the saw. So then the brush cap screws into the brush holder, conducts the electricity to the brush holder, and then the brush holder conducts it around the other winding in the rotor at the bottom, down here. Around and around she goes, and then back to the switch, back to neutral in the wall in the fuse panel. So once again, current through the wire, through the black wire, switch switches it on, provides current to the motor winding, electricity goes around in the circle, creates a magnetic field coming this way, right out of the saw, straight up and down. Then that conducts the same electricity to this brush, which conducts it to the rotor, which conducts it around one of those big loops in the rotor, which creates another magnetic field, and they want to align. So the one in the rotor wants to come around and line up with the one in the field. That current goes back out through the commutator, through the brush holder, back into the lower winding, goes around and creates more magnetism, and then out to neutral and back to the fuse box. And that's it. Also of note, the motor turns the fan, turns its own fan. This gets very warm. It's actually not very efficient. So all of the heat that builds up here because of the inefficiency, whenever you hear an engineer say it's inefficient, it means it makes a lot of heat, waste heat that you can't use. That heat is so intense that the motor will eventually stop working. So you put a fan on the motor turns its own fan, blows cooling air through it, stays nice and cool, run forever. That's all there is to it. Very, very simple. No electronics, no fancy circuits. It's simply a switch, a bunch of copper windings, 2 brushes, and some wire. And these windings are nothing more than copper wire wrapped around in loops. Just a heck of a lot of them. That's it. That's all there is to it.